Welcome everyone to the Men's Yoga Podcast. Today on the podcast, we have Spencer Jaretzke with us. Spencer's a lifestyle health coach, a fitness coach, a yoga instructor, a breathwork instructor, and plus much more. And I just want to thank you, Spencer, for joining us today and sharing your story with us. And we'll dive right into the questions, and maybe you can tell us a little bit more about who you are and where you're from.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for having me, Matt. Appreciate always getting to talk to someone new and express my story. So I might as well jump right into it. I first found yoga about 12 years ago on this workout DVDs called P90X with Tony Horton. And I was just starting to get into health and wellness at that point, and I was more in the physical body. And on day 4, there was this workout called Yoga X. And I was like, okay, I heard of this yoga stuff. It's not lifting or pull-ups or squats or anything like that. Let's give it a go. And I absolutely despised it. I was like, give me pull-ups and push-ups and all that other stuff any other day of the week than getting into these weird positions and focusing on my breath. And so I immediately, I had so much aversion to it. So I was like, maybe this is something that I need in my life. I was actually intuitive enough back then to realize that the things that I don't want to do are probably the things that I need to do the most.
Wow. Yeah.
And so again, every Thursday I would notice the resistance coming up between that day's working out, because it was 90 days straight. So like every 4th day of the week, I knew I had that Yoga X DVD coming on, 90 minutes
right.
of stuff that I was uncomfortable with. And so from there,
I want to share something with that though, because what's very fascinating is I had the exact same way of being introduced to yoga. The exact same way. I was getting into working out. For me, I couldn't do the full 90 minutes. So I did the P90X3 because I can only afford the 30 minutes. And, and Wednesday was the yoga. And I would skip it. For months, I would skip it. And then there was one day where it came on by accident. And I was like just sitting down in my workout room, and it came on, and it's like, first thing Tony says in it, whatever you do, don't skip this. And I was like, oh shit, Tony, now I got to do this. And then from there, honestly, that's where it started. I just find it's very funny that I had the same kind of experience.
Yeah, man, that's so cool. So cool. Yeah. He says, I think in the one video, he's like, people always ask me how I can do all my skiing and my climbing and all this stuff. And he's like, I just tell them it's because of yoga. It's not because of all the pull-ups I do or any of that stuff. That's great. But the yoga is the catalyst to everything else. And I like to tell my students, like, I do all sorts of fitness. Like I like to, like I say, pull-ups, squats, deadlifts, all that manly stuff, swinging kettlebells, swinging maces. But if I would say malevolent being was like, you're only allowed to do one exercise for the rest of your life, pick wisely, it would be the yoga, because it hits every level. A well-designed program, when you start getting the knowledge, you can get your strength, your mobility, which is the most important thing, in my opinion, being able to do the things we want to do with minimal amounts of discomfort and pain. And you get a peace of mind. You start getting into the breath. You just get more open to all of life's experiences, I find. And so yoga is, like I say, if I had only to do one thing from now on, I'd be able to get everything I need out of my practice. It's something that I do every morning when I wake up, and whether it be just 10 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour, depending on how much time I have the knowledge that I'm able to get what I need done, tune into my body and listen to what it's asking for this day, because every day is different. And we like to judge ourselves on our practices and go, why is this a struggle today? I was able to do it no problem yesterday. Like, am I getting worse? Am I reverting? And it's like, no, like be quiet, come to the breath. Every day is different. And so that's how I found yoga. And then to really, when I wanted to dive deep into it, a friend of mine, I hadn't ever been to a real yoga class yet. I just was doing the DVDs. And a friend of mine was like, oh, I just started doing yoga at this studio called Bikram. And it's 26 postures repeated twice in a hot room. And I was like, oh, I've been doing P90X yoga for a while. Yeah, I'll be good at this. Like I got this. I don't know if you've ever been into a hot Bikram studio before. It's
intense.
It's intense. It's so hot, and the postures in themselves are accessible to any level, I find. But again, the more you progress, the further you go. It's the battle with the heat and the mind telling you like, okay, you're getting too hot. Your heart's pounding. It's like being in a sauna. And it's what I call, it's where I was first introduced to the mind aspect of yoga, where this is really not about just the physical. This is a mental battle here. I can hear all this chatter in my head telling me to get out of the room. You're going to die. This is so uncomfortable. And so it's a lesson on going, okay, you chose to be in this room right now. You can leave. So if you leave or if you stay, you might as well shut that little chatter box up, because it's not doing anything but creating suffering. So you got the options here. It's like I say in life, there's only two things we kind of control, which is our choices and our reactions. And so I chose to be in that room. So let's next take my reactions and minimize them, because I've made the choice. Bickering, bitching, moaning about being in there is never going to do anything. So it was a eye-opening experience. And after the 90 minutes, I felt so good. Like this, just the detoxification of all through the sweating and the breathing. So I started getting hooked and started going to a lot of those Bikram classes and really finding a groove. And from there, I started getting comfortable going to these classes because I knew what they were all about. And so I was like, okay, let's try another studio. Let's try a different teacher. And then I found like the vinyasa flow, power yoga, all the glamorous yoga that a lot of our culture absorbs, like the Lululemon pants, the girls and all that. And
right.
And I was like, oh, okay, there's a whole other aspect of yoga here. This is more like, I want to call it more flashy, more ego yoga, where you're
Hollywood yoga.
Yeah. Where I really, I kind of love that a bit. I could really fed into my ego of competing with myself, but I watched it come out in my practice of competing with the other people around me, going and having the chatter in my head of, oh, look at how deep that person is, or how good, in quotes, how they're doing their posturing. And then it would start pushing me. So I noticed it was good. It was a really good learning experience, but it took me out of the battle against myself, which I call yoga pretty much doing martial arts against yourself. And so when then I was doing it against other people in the room, comparing all that stuff. And so I was like, okay, I need to pull back my practice a bit and start taking it, doing a home practice and figuring out who I am. What is yoga to me? Is it me just trying to handstand everyone out of the room, or is it me trying to, get 1% better every day in these postures? And so a friend of mine said there's this yoga teacher training that's going on in Costa Rica. It's a month-long intensive. And I was like, ooh, I want to go to Costa Rica. Maybe I can learn how to teach this yoga stuff. And so signed up for it just in good faith. I read who the teacher was, but I never met them. I never knew much about them other than what was on their website. And that turned out to be an incredible experience. Like, I thought I was going there to just teach how to give people cues, how to get into posture, anatomy, etc. And then what that yoga teacher training was to me was like a soul excavation. Like the teacher, shout out to Amanda Kelly, Outbound Yoga. She taught us to figure out who we are as humans. What makes us tick? What is our unique voice? What is our style? Because, everyone, there's the information, the classes, the information's all out there. So it's like, what is your story? What is your twist on teaching yoga and development and all that stuff? And there wasn't a day that went by in that teacher training that people weren't breaking down and crying and just having all these realizations about themselves and their habits, their awareness. Just like once your awareness starts to heighten, you start to pay attention to all the things that you may not like about yourself. And then there's a little bit of shame. And so it was an enlightening experience, to say the least. So coming back from that, I was kind of like, whoa, like what just happened there? I thought I was going to learn how to just tell people where to put their bodies and stuff, not get all these downloads and realizations of who I am and what my voice truly is. So from there, I just, again, went right and started finding a place to volunteer to teach at. And it's so nervous. Your first year of teaching yoga, I found, was just like, you're just like, are they liking this? Like, am I doing it good? And like, you're kind of shy looking at people because you're like, am I staring at them? Am I making them uncomfortable? And all these, like the mind chatter. And so it took a while to get over that and just get comfortable in my own skin and my own voice, knowing that, I'm good at what I do. People do like my classes. I'm not going to get everyone on board with my style and my story, and that's okay. And so once I was able to kind of just get comfortable and teach from my heart, from my center, it's just become so much fun. Like, I look forward to going into that classroom and the studio, the space, whatever. And just going, I don't have a plan ever when I go in to teach. I don't have a set sequence. Like, I have a bunch in my head from just so many practices I've done. But I don't go in there with like, okay, this is what we're doing today. I kind of look at the room, feel the energy from the people, kind of see what they need today, and just kind of go from there. And it's a gift to be able to go in there and do that stuff, and people, just make them come out, and you just see them glowing, and you're like, yeah, like I feel good. So that's kind of
that. Do you find that harder? Since it seems like the most of the transition has been to online due to the situations. Were you doing it online and finding the same thing? Were you able to feel what the class needed?
No, absolutely not. Online was such a lot of people didn't want to turn on their cameras.
I know it's really hard to teach with that.
It's like I might as well just be giving you guys a video. Like I'll record this video and you guys can just follow along, because I can't give you cues. You're not like it's a disaster in my opinion. Like, I get it. We're moving online a lot more, and a lot of people feel more comfortable just having a screen telling them how to move, and no one's looking at them. So it keeps them in their comfort zone. Whereas if you go to a class and go to the studio, you get uncomfortable the moment you put on your shoes and you're leaving your sanctuary to go out to the world where unknowns happen, and maybe you'll fart in the yoga class. Like, who knows, right?
Yeah.
But that's where the magic happens. Like, I wouldn't have gone anywhere in my yoga journey had I not stopped watching those DVDs and went to the studio and talked to different people, different teachers. And so
I noticed my own energy from transitioning from online, going back into the studio, where when I'm teaching, after the class, I had more realization of how I felt, and I could feel like it was like the class I was teaching myself the entire time, and I wasn't even teaching. There was just this energy that felt like it was all, yeah, it was very unique experience I found going back.
I totally agree. Yeah, it was actually just a few months ago, and I was just like, this is weird. Like, I'm actually teaching people, and like, and they're all staring at me, and I'm like, oh yeah, I have to tell them what to do now, and I get to see them.
When you went to traveling to Costa Rica, did you find that the atmosphere enhanced that experience for you?
Absolutely. You're taken right out of your element. I find when I'm traveling, my sleep takes a bit to adjust. So I may have had a little bit of sleep deprivation, which I find it can be a blessing and a curse sometimes, because it opens the heart, but it also makes you more fragile at the same time. So it allowed me to really go in and analyze all the parts of myself. So it was, and it was intensive, right? So it was up at 6 a.m. We would be we'd be practicing at 6 a.m. And the days were 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. with like a few breaks scattered throughout. So they were, 14-hour days every day. We had one little break, but you're just immersed right into it, as opposed to the 3-month long or 6-month long, once a week type trainings. You really bond with the people in that group. You're essentially living with them, kind of.
Right. What is a day in the life of Spencer? What does your normal day typically look like?
Nowadays?
Yeah.
Okay. I like to wake up early, usually about 6 a.m. And I go right into conscious breathing. So as I'm waking up in bed, I stay in bed for about 15 to 20 minutes, and I just do some conscious connected breath work, whether, it's the Wim Hof or some just box breathing, whatever I'm feeling that the body needs that day. So I just want to connect to my body, connect and shut off the chatter, because I find in the mornings, this is something that happens to me and probably a lot of other people, the overwhelm hits us. Oh my God, I got so much to do today. I don't know how it's all going to go. Like, what's going to happen? So I call them the 2 grinning gremlins. They pop up at the foot of our beds every morning, no matter how far we sailed the day before, how amazing the day was. These 2 grinning gremlins pop up at the foot of our bed, and we can call them fear and lethargy. And they'll start nibbling at our toes. And if we're not careful, they're going to swallow us whole for that day. So once you notice them nibbling at the toes, saying that incessant chatter of, new day, lots to do, who knows how it's going to go, anxiety, overwhelm, it's really good to just, okay, I'm going to breathe now. And so the breath takes me kind of out of those gremlins, kind of pop their head back down at the foot of the bed and go away. And so then I'll get up after the breath, and I'll usually do about 15 to 20 minutes of yoga, and then 15 to 20 minutes of meditation. So it's about an hour. The first hour of my day is to just get into the body, get out of the mind, and no need to go into the zeitgeist of information and familiarity, because all it does is create, all these things we're trying to avoid to start our days. So you set your day up for success. I mean, I'm not perfect. This doesn't happen every day, all the time, but when I'm hitting it, when I'm flying like that, the days are great. The days are phenomenal. Even if I had a bad day the day before, it never carries over. It's just the same as the good days. They don't really carry over. Every day is a new day, and how you look at it in the morning sets yourself up for the rest. So once I get that out of the way, it's some breakfast. It's a lot of the times it's some eggs and eggs and oatmeal is a nice go-to there. Some fresh fruit and nuts on the oatmeal. And sometimes I cook my eggs. Sometimes I just drink them raw, depending on how much time I have. And then I start on with my day. I check emails. I see if I need to reach out to clients, if it's a client day, who I'm working with, if I'm teaching, business strategies, all that stuff that it's good to get done, I find, before 12 o'clock. If you can get the most pertinent, most important stuff done out of your day in the first half, it allows that second half a lot more flexibility. And that's kind of how I've designed my life now, to have flexibility to do the things I want to do with my time, because I've come to realize that our most precious, valuable commodity currency is our time and our attention.
It's almost the new currency now, right? For everyone.
And we give it away so easily, like these friendly screens of ours.
Yeah.
I mean, I made it a challenge this month of spring, a spring cleaning edition, to really cut my screen time in half, because I was noticing like 5 hours of screen time. And I'm like, and I justify, I got to work on my business. I'm reaching out to clients or new contacts, and whatever justification I'm using to stare at my screen is something that doesn't need to be 5 hours. That's for sure. Like, that's a lot of the day. But I mean, if anyone listening looks at their digital well-being on their phone, they might have something quite similar. So I did my bet. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, it's good to recognize that, because what are we actually like paying attention to, right? We got to remember that we're paying with our attention, and it's important to become aware of what is happening. Mm-hmm. I guess that's the first step, right? Is the awareness.
That's totally what I teach. It's bringing the awareness, and people are afraid to bring the awareness because then it points a spotlight or a finger at our parts of us that we don't like, or our habits that we don't like. But we can't change anything without having the awareness of a quote unquote problem to address, or a leak that we have. And so bringing that awareness really just enhances our life. And I also say it's a blessing and a curse in a sense, because, blessing, you're able to become aware of all the things about us that we perhaps want to improve. But you start to question, have I always been like this? Is this just the way I am? Like, can I change? The awareness brings, again, the judge, and then the judge is like, yeah, shame you. Look at all this stuff that I get to judge now about you. And so to circle back to my day, get the things I need to get done during the day, and by dinner time, I want to, spend time with friends and family, loved ones, partner, and enjoy the evening, have a nice dinner. I like eating healthy a lot of the time, like 80% of the time. I call it living my life by the 80-20 rule, where 80% of the stuff I'm doing, I know is good for me, and I know, it's going to help me move forward, fuel me right. But then 20% of the time, I'm going to eat some cupcakes. I'm going to do, maybe watch a show that might not be the greatest show to watch. Like, I don't need to always be learning or doing some kind of self-improvement of sorts. And then the end of the day, I always like to wind down with reflections of the day, like kind of what filled me with enthusiasm in the day, what did I get excited about, what drained me of energy in the day.
Do you journal that?
Yeah.
Like, do you journal? Do you?
Yeah. I write it down. I've been getting in the habit of just not missing it, because, some days I don't want to, and some days it's very short, but then other days it flows. And then I have all those data points to go back and kind of go, oh yeah. Oh, okay. And then from there, the awareness, because we're throwing so much information and so much stuff every day. So if we just try and think about the stuff that were, filled us with enthusiasm or drained us or what we learned, it goes. Unless we write it down, I find, and you have some reference to go back to, it's just an afterthought. It's gone. So writing
and a lot of men don't.
No.
A lot of men
do.
But when you look at the masterminds from like decades and like hundreds of years ago, like there's powerful men that were writing down and like writing their journals, right?
Yeah, Marcus Aurelius Meditations, right? Like he wrote that just for himself, and it's littered with wisdom, like nuggets scattered throughout that whole thing. He's the most powerful dude in the world, like,
right?
And so it's a habit that I always emphasize with people I coach, men I coach or whatever. I'm like, write shit down. I'm telling you, you're going to notice a difference. And it's the hardest one to get them to do. I even say, just take 5 minutes, set the timer for 5 minutes. I think it has something to do with intuitively, subconsciously, we know how powerful it is. We know it can create our lives better, and we're afraid of our own success and our own victories and stuff. So then I only spend 15 minutes. I set the timer for 15 minutes. Sometimes I get it done a little bit quicker, but I don't go over that. So it doesn't make it so it's like a chore that I got to write for half an hour or whatever. And then I like to hop into a gratitude journal, which takes like 3 to 5 minutes of just kind of going over, what am I grateful for today? What specifically happened? And just writing it out. When I'm in that habit, Matt, life is good. Like life is so good when I'm really not just giving lip service to gratitude, but really feeling it with emotions and being genuine and authentic. So yeah, that's my, maybe teaching some yoga class throughout there. It depends on what day it is. That's the typical day.
What's your most important, like you have a well-established like self-care practices within there that you've mentioned. And if there was one out of them, what do you feel like is important to you? Like going back to that, you went to like saying working out, and out of working out or yoga, what you do, you would kind of take yoga. But I mean, you mentioned a lot of things that seem like you seem to have a lot of wisdom in you and some really good self-care practices, even from like pressing pause in the morning before you even step out of bed, right? Like a lot of people don't do that. And it's just hitting the pause button before you even start your day, which is amazing. And something simple as that could be so powerful. But then you mentioned all these other things that are fantastic as well. So what do you feel like is a great self-care practice that you would take with you? Like one.
I was thinking of this the other day, and I was nervous about missing any of them because I don't know which one's the one, right? I don't know if there is the one or if they all work and sync together to create it. Mm-hmm. I've lived without them. I've lived in a very unconscious way, sleeping in, checking my phone first thing, eating whatever I want. And the data points I got from all that stuff was, I feel like crap. I don't feel alive. I don't feel sharp. And so this, I really find getting into the breath first thing, laying in bed and consciously connecting to your breath. The mind's going to think, obviously, but it's to do your best to just focus on the breathing, whether you're doing Wim Hof or any other kind of conscious connected breath work. I find that just sets it up. It's like a cup of coffee for me, and I'm able to go, okay, next thing. And then these practices develop through habits that you don't necessarily want to do every day, but you do it anyways. And then from there, the discipline starts to form. You start to get a belief in yourself, and you really start to go, I don't want to miss any of these. I may be rushing today, but I'm going to spend 10 minutes here, 10 minutes here, 10 minutes here. Working out.
What do you tell yourself? What do you tell yourself when you're challenged by your mind?
I allow my inner, it's been coined by, I think, Joe Rogan and other people, but the inner bitch. So I allow my inner bitch some voice. I don't shut it down. I say, you got 10 minutes. You're allowed 10 minutes to have your pity party, your voice of whatever you want to go and cry about or say, complain, say this isn't fair or whatever. And then once that 10 minutes is up, I'm like, okay, let's do this. Like, let's take the next step, whatever that step is. The longer we stay in our brain and our thinking, the easier those loops, those fear loops, those whatever just keeps circling in our head. So give yourself 10 minutes. Don't try and silence it because it wants to voice. It wants to speak. Our judge needs the space. Say thank you, offer it loving awareness, loving kindness, and then, then I get to the David Goggins mode where I'm just like, all right, you're done. Let's get hard. Let's do some squats or some kettlebell swings or something like that. Because if that inner critic, the inner bitch is very strong, I find getting a really good sweat on, I find with the kettlebell or something that I'm able to swing and get the catabolic strength, mobility, and cardio all in one. In a quick 20-minute session, 30-minute session, that'll shut up a lot of stuff.
Yeah, you seem to have a lot of willpower. Was that developed or?
Oh, absolutely. This is nothing that was ever born. I want to make it clear, my listeners here and the listeners here. I've led a very unconscious life where I was 240 pounds. Like an origin story I tell is I was 29 years old and I was about 240 pounds. I drank 5-6 nights a week, ate whatever I wanted. I thought life was about going to work at a job you didn't like so I could get the money to just, drink and watch content and play video games and all that stuff that culture kind of shoves down your throat when you're developing as a young person. And so I remember it clearly. I was playing this game called The Sims. And it's a game where you have an avatar character and you try and upgrade his life by, teaching them violin, another language, how to work out, have great friends, great relationships, great job. And so your goal is to make this computer character who just goes around doing all the tasks that you send them on to improve their lives. And I'm like, hold on a second here. I had what alcoholics would call a moment of clarity. And I was like, this is a meat suit that I was gifted here, and I can touch it. This is physical. What am I doing? Why am I investing countless tens of hours, maybe hundreds of hours into this ridiculous computer screen character avatar, which I'm sure we're all heading there in the metaverse soon enough, but that's another topic. And I just put on a pair of running shoes and old shoes for sure, and just started running up and down the stairs of my building. And from that moment, I was like, okay, that was hard. That was awful. I'm not going to get 2 pounds of chicken wings tonight. I'm going to maybe try something different because I'm sure I have to give myself the right fuel. I don't want to just throw out all that running or all those stair climbing with some, dinner that's just going to negate all that. And it was just small incremental steps, no pun intended. I would go to those stairs every other day and just go up and down, up and down. Then I started, the internet was popping and there was information abound. And it was just about it was before I even went with the adage of just get 1% better every day. Intuitively, I almost know if I could just get a little bit better than the day before, that's when the compound interest starts kicking in. And so I've lived, I've lived 2 lives. So one that was very unconscious and without any awareness, a lot of distraction, a lot of numbing. And
now that first life, if you were to look back, you hit kind of an aha moment. If you were to look back before hitting that aha moment, in this second life now that you have, what would you tell that first life? reflecting on it? Because some people don't hit that aha moment.
I would say it had to be the way it had to be. A lot of people I talk to who get into development and personal development and spirituality, wellness, they say to themselves, they're like, oh, I wish I started this 10 years ago. I would be so much further. And I'm like, yeah, well, you didn't. And then there's the old saying, it's like the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. And the next best time is now. So you got to get out of that mindset. You got to look at that hourglass. That's what we have, that hourglass of our lives, and the sand that falls to the bottom. You can't focus on that. You got to look at the lessons that were learned, and you can either learn from them or you're going to repeat them in the top part of that sand as it falls through. So, but don't dwell on that stuff. Like, yeah, I've caught myself many times saying, oh, if I had just started 10 years earlier, I would be 10 years further. But no one knows that. I wouldn't be where I'm at had I not gone through all those things I went through. Like, I went through some darkness. I battled like alcohol bendering, where I would go on these long, drawn out benders where I would ruin relationships. I could lose a job here or there. And it was these areas of darkness that were so painful in my life. But people have asked me, like, if you could not have that ever happen, would you wave a wand and have them disappear? And I'm like, absolutely not. I learned so much every time I went into the darkness. One of my mentors, Paul Chek, says that pain is the greatest teacher. So now you don't, it's not fun, but you can, if you are open to the experience and you're there to just treat everything as an experience and not attach our preferences to those experiences, we're not creating the extra suffering.
Becoming a disciple, right?
Yeah.
Of those experiences. Instead of trying to categorize and place them into agreeing or disagreeing, just become a disciple and just flow. Yeah.
I mean, I just made a little post this morning on my stories, and it was just along the lines of aversion and grasping is what creates our suffering. And so we avert, we get away from the things we don't like, we push them away, and the things that we like, we are afraid to lose. We don't want them to go away. There's a massive fear of losing the things we love or whatever. Like I catch it in myself sometimes when I'm spending time with my girlfriend and I'm like, oh, I've only got like 12 hours left with her until I got to do whatever it is I got to do. And I'm going to miss her. And I'm like, okay, you're very much grasping onto this feeling and this moment and this person. Like, just be present in this time. So it's just having that awareness to recognize when we are grasping, when we are avoiding. And as like Ram Dass says it best when he's like, pleasure and pain, fame and shame, loss and gain are all the same. And it's just how we look at it. I'm sure we all want pleasure, but we don't want pain. But the sensations are,
you can't have one without the other, right?
You can't have, like I was doing deadlifts on Tuesday and I pulled my back out and I'm like, there's a lot of pain surrounding it. I can't do my regular yoga practice that I want. I can't, dance, or there's a bunch of stuff that I can't do because of what happened. And I'm getting mad, I'm getting disgruntled. And I'm like, you know what, perhaps this is the universe, whatever, God telling me to slow down, and I'm overtraining and I need to just focus on, some business stuff, some development stuff, maybe some relationship stuff, whatever it is. to take away from my training and not look at my injury as pain or a curse, but a blessing. You know, it's hard to get there, but
it's making me reflect on a post I seen Will Smith post, and I know it's probably not probably the best time to bring up a Will Smith post, but he's like, you get the how is it? Oh, now I'm screwing it up. It's something you're getting the lesson first. No, I'm saying it wrong. It's not the lesson first, because school gives you the lesson first. You get the test first, and then in life you get the test first, and then you get the lesson. Right? And and I thought it was very powerful. But yeah, sorry, I probably shouldn't bring up a Will Smith.
Yeah, that's one thing that I could not avoid. I was like, I'm not gonna look into this Will Smith thing.
Oh, I know, I was the same. Like, I had to.
And I could not avoid it. Even my most enlightened, awakened friends on social media were all talking about it. And I was like, all right, okay. I guess everyone in the entire world, the whole collective, is somewhat paying attention to it. But it does, not to talk about it too much, but it circles back to, you know, Will Smith acting out of his emotions there and not using awareness, whether it's staged or not. Like, I don't like who's ever going to be able to prove that. You can all think that it's staged. You can think that it's real, but either way, it's another human losing their temper and going up on the stage and hitting another human who's smaller than them because they know that human can't do anything back to them. And it's, and to have the people applauding that is like, it's a joke. Come on. Like, when are we, that's one thing that I get worried about is people canceling comedians and not understanding that, you know, we need to have, you know, conversation and context of nuance of funny things that they won't be brought up if everyone's afraid to speak about something, because everyone's worried about having the safe space to speak. And I tell people, it's never safe to speak. Like, if you're going to speak your truth with your opinions and your ideas and all that stuff, you're going to get ridiculed no matter what.
Yeah. The first time once you speak, you make it physical. Whichever way you look at it, it's physical. It's coming out of your mouth as a physical vibration.
And so just be like, in the 4 agreements, be impeccable with your word, and it's like, it pulls back to Satya, truthfulness, and the yamas. Like, my life started getting a lot better when I became truthful to myself, and I started living my truth and not wearing masks to appease other people, and knowing in my heart my intention is from love. And sure, I'm going to still hurt people, but I want to try and correct it when I do. And so I don't have to worry about, is someone going to take what I say the wrong way? Well, maybe they will, but if they want to have a conversation and clarify what they took from whatever I said in a wrong way, then I'm always open to be like, hey, okay, let's talk about what may have bothered you, and let's go from there. Communication is so important. We just live behind our keyboards now, blasting out tweets and fighting in Facebook comments. And I mean, I've broken up with people because of text messages going awry. It's just, it ballooned into a whole misconstrued misunderstanding through text messages.
Right. Because the emotion's not there.
And that's how we communicate nowadays on the internet. Like, everyone's just has no problem firing these hate messages back and forth, and everyone's got an opinion. And then we tie their character, who they are as a human, in their opinions. And now we're in this culture war of, you know, everything's so easy for us. Like, everything, we don't have struggle. We don't have strife. Everything's just, and so we create it ourselves. We start bickering about nonsensical crap.
Right. Well, what has been your greatest experience so far?
Traveling and meeting other people from all sorts of walks of life, from, super rich people to the most, I don't like using the word poor, because these people in my eyes were richer than the richest people, some of them anyways, but just meeting different humans around the planet, connecting with them on a level of love and appreciation for who they are as humans, and not for what they do for me or what they can, how they make me feel or whatever is nice, but not looking for reciprocity in these relationships, just genuine, how you doing? Like, how are you doing? Okay. And like genuinely caring. Traveling is a way, it's a great education, because it takes you out of your comfort zones. It takes you to all sorts of new places. So traveling, absolutely. And then, yoga, like it shifted so much of my thinking. Like, so I guess I can talk briefly if do I have a little bit more time?
Yeah, for sure.
Talk about the men's program and why I created this men's yoga program, which I'm quite proud of, because it's a 4-week in-person 2-hour session, so 8 hours in total, and we meet once a week. And the first hour, I go into the mind and how our emotional brain and our thinking brain are always, let's say, in a war with one another, and how our emotional brain like runs the fucking show. Like that brain will, so I open up with this question to the men. I'm like, why do you think we don't do the things that we know we should do? And I usually get a bunch of answers of, like lack of discipline, no self-control, laziness, impulsiveness. And I say, like, those are all great, rational, reasonable answers, but you can simply boil it down to, it's because we just don't feel like it. We don't feel like it. Whatever that time comes, we have a resistance and anxiety that tells us, oh, I'll do it tomorrow, or I'll start next week, or I had a rough day at work or a rough moment, and I'm going to allow that to dictate all the feeling stuff. Because there's that Disney movie called Inside Out, and it's got, I don't know if you heard of it. It's this little girl. Yeah, it's this little girl whose emotions of joy, anger, disgust, sadness, and fear, they're the ones who pretty much dictate her whole existence. And then you notice in that movie, there's no thinking character. The thinking part of the character, they don't really mention it. And it's not because they don't exist. It's because our thinking brain is usually just sitting shotgun, ready to give you directions on what to do and what to go. But your feeling brain, which is like an elephant, is going to go where it wants to go. And your thinking part, you're the rider of the elephant. The thinking brain, it can gently steer or pull that elephant into any direction. But ultimately, that elephant sees a mate it wants to fuck that it shouldn't. No, pardon me. Sees a mate that it doesn't, or some food it shouldn't eat, whatever. It's going to go that way. So it's all about, I like to say, yoga is about training the mind to get the thinking brain, the rider, and the feeling, emotional brain, the elephant, to work as a unit, which would be, like they coin it as the wise mind. And the way you start doing that is you're able to negotiate with feeling brain and emotional brain about, okay, yeah, I may not feel like doing this right now. Like I don't want to, like I love running up the Sydenham Hill. I'm like, I don't want to run up the hill. I don't want to, but I have enough data points. I have enough understanding that it's going to make feeling brain feel so much better. So thinking brain can kind of go, look, yeah, I know you don't want to run up the hill, but dude, you want to feel better? It's like, yeah, I want to feel better. Okay, let's do this. So I created this men's program to kind of rope men into, at first they think this is going to be good for my hockey, or I'm going to be able to touch my toes or something. They're intrigued with yoga, but then I throw all this, like the real yoga, the mind yoga, and then week 2 and week 3, I take them into like what would be a mini yoga teacher training in a sense, where I break down the yamas and the niyamas, and they all have like these workbooks that they're able to go through and really notice their leaks, their places where they want to improve and how to improve those places. And then, I mean, at the second hour of each week, we do the physical asana practice. So we move into that. But the first hour I find is where the gems really are, where the brain, I can see the shift in their thinking of who they are and why they do the things they do. And then week 4, I like to end with some breath work, get them out of their mind after I blasted their brains with so much thinking and analyzing. I like to go, okay, let's just get into the body, into the breath. We do an hour of conscious connected breath work. And then the final hour is another yoga practice. And I find that those 4 weeks is enough to really give them the starting blocks and the tools to go, okay, this yoga is so much more than just downward dog and Lululemon pants and girls. And there's a whole other world. And if they want, they have the starting foundation to create an amazing life, because that's what I call my program, a blueprint for happiness, because that's what it has done for me. And I just want to share it and bring more awareness to men who have been pretty much the last few generations destroyed. They've men and their place in society has been shown to be, you've got to make money, you got to hustle, you got to be successful, you got to have sex with lots of women, fast cars, big houses, fear other men, watch sports, talk politics, like just surface stuff, and really don't
drink beer and then die.
Yeah. And so the reason I created this yoga program specifically for men, and I've had lots of women say, when are you going to just run the women program? I mean, I totally could tailor it to women, but in my own struggles is finding out what it is to be a man and masculine and truly living in that aspect of my life. It's been a fucking journey. I've had to go through so many experiences with men and figuring out what it is to be like, I've lived all the modalities of what it was our culture tells us to be as a successful man. And I was miserable, absolutely miserable. And so I want to bring up with that, because if you did, it seems you did a lot of this yourself, which probably took a lot longer of a time. You being the teacher and having these blueprints for men, it's going to help so much faster. I know for myself, I had a teacher that was teaching me the same, just being able to recognize my emotions. And we went through this training, and it gave me so many aha moments and realizations. And then it was able for me to slow down my thinking enough to not react and just have action. And I remember the first time it happened for me. And I just want to share this because I feel it's very important what you're training men to do, and how you can start regulating your emotions and start recognizing before you react. When the first time I really noticed the effect was, I was drinking and stuff like that. And I was taking this training on regulating my emotions. And my daughter, we were in an argument at the time, and she takes out this, and I usually have a short fuse, right? And so we were in an argument at the time, and she opened the door to the fridge, and this massive mayonnaise fell out and landed on my toe, right? And I typically would be like, okay, volcano's off, you know what I mean? And the thing is that it hurt so much that I couldn't react. But it was the first time to stop me to go, training. And okay, this is what Matt would typically do. How do I want to approach this now? How can I go a different way about this? And I did. I was able, it hurt so much, but it was the first time that I was able for me to notice I would react this way. Let's go with a different route. And I just picked up the mayonnaise, put it back in the fridge. And I'm like, I know we're fighting, and I know I would typically act like this, hun, but I know you did it by accident. And
We're not gonna worry. And she knew, she was like waiting for old Matt to go, you know what I mean? And it didn't. And so I think it's very valuable with what you're doing, and very important for men to do that, because what you're saying with just the recognition and reflecting is huge. It's huge.
Thank you, man. Thank you, man. I really appreciate you saying that, because it's, I find it, that's what I feel too. And, you know, sometimes I get in my own head about it and I'm like, do they even care? Do they just want to do like the physical yoga? Like, do they need this part? And I'm like, no, it's after I finish each day or each week with them, and at the end of the program, the guys come up to me and they're like, I didn't know what to think of that first hour. At first I was like, I didn't like sitting on the ground. I was uncomfortable, but they're like, that's where it just, my mind shifted, and I was able to really understand what the heck this yoga is all about, and what how my choices and my reactions are causing pain and suffering in my life. And I was like, yes, awareness.
That's awesome. That's great. Where are you teaching this?
I'm in Dundas. I'm teaching at Dundas Hot Yoga, or Dundas Yoga and Fitness. I think that's what she's calling it now. And they have Bikram classes.
And that's in Ontario. Ontario.
Dundas, Ontario. They have, the 26 and 2 Bikram posture classes where it's really hot. We have flow classes where it's just creative, flows where the teacher comes in and, like I was saying with the classes I teach, they're just to general people. I don't really have a plan. I kind of go, oh, this is what we're doing today. And I kind of just make it a nice dance of sorts. And there's also some yin classes there where you can get deep into your meditations, and a hot hit class. So if you want to just go in there and, do interval training, you can rock it out there. And I run the program out of there right now at the moment, but I'm always on the go and expanding it to wherever I'm able to get. I mean, I had to shut down for 2 years thanks to whatever, but now that I'm back up and running, I've been reaching out to a few addiction centers as well, because I know how powerful it can be with men with addictions, like, being one myself in a sense. And so I've been in contact with a few that are keen on me running it out of there. And I'm just going to keep on taking it to places where, where the men show up. Cause it's like, Matt, it's like herding cats. Like, men to come to a men's yoga class is like, I'm like literally herding cats. And the fact that I'm able to do it, and that they show up, and that they get so much out of it, the word of mouth just starts flowing. And then the more word of mouth happens, the more men will be like, hey, this might be of benefit.
Yeah. And it seems like a lot of men are looking for that now. I noticed at the studio that I teach, the teacher was saying there she's being approached more and more, which is nice to see.
Where are you teaching?
I teach at Church 444.
Okay. Is that, Monica, obviously.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. We know them. I know we all know the same people then. I'm surprised we haven't run into each other yet.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Small world.
Yeah. So you're in Hamilton.
I'm originally from Stony Creek, and I'm out in Welland, Ontario.
Okay. Yeah.
So we moved out here recently, but yeah, I still teach through church.
Nice.
Yeah.
Sweet. I'm sure our paths will cross in person.
Yeah, for sure. That's great. Well, I want to thank you so much for joining us today on the Men's Yoga Podcast, and sharing your story, sharing your wisdom. And where can everybody find you to reach out, especially for this course you're going to be running? It sounds great.
So my website is spencerjaretzke.com. So my first and last name. I'm looking to actually make it simpler as well, but at the moment it's SpencerJaretzke.com. Or you can always find me on Instagram, and you can search my name there, Spencer Jaretzke, but I'm also the handle of Tetrahedronic Yogi. So you can find me there and reach out.
Include all the links.
Yeah. If you include all those links, that'd be great. And I'll definitely be looking forward to hearing from anyone if they have any questions or inquiries. And thank you so much, Matt. It was a pleasure talking to you and getting to start to know you. I'm sure we're going to be crossing paths in the future.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks so much again, Spencer.
Thank you, man.
Anytime you want to come on and share something, you got something new, you want to talk about something, by all means, come on. We'll talk about it.
Amazing, man. Thank you so much, brother. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks a lot. Okay.
Thank you. Namaste.
Namaste.